She said, "Promise you won't tell anyone." Before her hand slipped into mine, I don't know when it started. Maybe the night she laughed at something I said and touched my arm like it meant nothing. But it did. It meant everything. She wasn't supposed to look at me that way. Not with that kind of warmth. Not with eyes that had already lived through entire lives while mine were still learning where to rest. Her name was Elena. 40-something, composed, the kind of woman who never seemed unsure of anything, until silence hit. That's when her confidence thinned just enough for something else to show through. Something fragile. We met through work. Nothing dramatic. She managed the gallery. I handled deliveries, setup, lighting. I wasn't supposed to talk to her much, but she always found a reason to linger when I was around. Asking about cables, asking if I'd eaten, asking things she already knew the answers to. And I kept answering. Because I liked hearing her voice shape my name. Slow and careful. That night it was just us. Everyone else had gone home after the opening. The air smelled like old paint and new perfume. Soft jazz played from the corner speaker, the kind of music you don't notice until it's the only thing holding the silence up. She was standing by the last painting, her hand tracing the edge of the frame without touching it. I was coiling a wire I'd already coiled twice. "You don't have to stay," I said. "I know," she replied. Her eyes didn't leave the painting. "But it's quieter now." The way she said it, half an answer, half something else. She turned toward me, and I caught it. That moment between two people when nothing's happened yet, but everything has already changed. Her lipstick was fading, her hair slightly undone. Not the kind of flaw she'd normally allow, but she didn't fix it. Maybe she wanted to see if I'd notice. I did. She stepped closer, slowly, like the air had thickened between us. "You're quiet tonight," she said. "I'm trying not to say the wrong thing." Her lips curved. "That's usually what people say before they say it anyway." I smiled. Couldn't help it. And she looked at me like she'd been waiting to see that. There was space between us still, but it felt like standing too close to a fire. My throat went dry. I set the wire down just to give my hands something to do. Then she said it, soft, almost playful. "Promise you won't tell anyone." It came out like a dare, like a secret she hadn't decided to share yet. "About what?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just looked down, and her fingers brushed mine. Not a full touch, just enough to make the air shift. And that's when her hand slipped, slow, uncertain, into mine. Her skin was cool at first, then warmer, like she'd been thinking about it longer than I had. Her breath caught, barely audible, but I heard it. Neither of us moved. "I shouldn't," she whispered. "I know, but you're still holding my hand. So are you." A small silence stretched between us, heavy with everything we weren't saying. Outside, a car passed, its headlights sweeping across the gallery walls, breaking the moment, washing us in brief, cold light. She let go, just as the door clicked open behind us. A voice, distant, unsure, called her name. Elena straightened, smoothing her blouse, eyes darting toward the door. Then back to me. Her lips parted, maybe to explain, maybe to deny. But nothing came out. And for a second, before she turned away, I saw it. That same flicker in her eyes. Regret. Or maybe just the start of something she wasn't ready to name. I didn't see her for a week after that night. Not that I wasn't looking. Every shift at the gallery, I found myself listening for her heels on the tile, the soft click that always came before she spoke. But she stayed gone, business trip, maybe, or just avoiding the echo of what had almost happened. When she finally walked in again, the light caught her in a way that made the whole place feel smaller. She carried herself like nothing had changed, but she wouldn't meet my eyes right away. "Missed a few nights," I said, trying to sound casual. She smiled politely, like a boss greeting an employee. "Deadlines. You know how it is." I did, but that wasn't what she meant. For a while, we talked about shipments, invoices, safe things. But every now and then, her voice would soften, her attention drifting, like she was fighting the same thought I was. There was an age difference, 20 years, maybe more. Enough to make it wrong in the way people whispered about. She had a teenage daughter, a reputation, A quiet life she'd built carefully after a marriage that fell apart years ago. Me? I'd never had much of anything steady. A few short things that ended before they began. Too young, too unsure, too restless. She probably knew that, too. She stood by a table of framed photographs, brushing dust from the glass with the side of her hand. "You remind me of someone," she said. "Good someone or bad?" She didn't look up. Neither. Just someone I used to talk to too much. I almost laughed, but her tone stopped me. There was weight under it, something she wasn't ready to unpack. I moved closer, just enough to smell her perfume again. Something faint, floral, and warm. She noticed because she straightened slightly but didn't move away. "You don't say much," she said. "Guess I'm afraid of saying something I shouldn't." Her eyes flicked up at that, holding mine. "Then maybe you already did." Her hand rested on the edge of the frame, fingers brushing my sleeve when she turned it slightly toward the light. A light touch, accidental if either of us wanted to pretend. "You're nervous," she said softly. "I'm trying not to be." She tilted her head, amused but kind. "Don't try so hard." The distance between us disappeared for a breath. Literally one. She leaned in to adjust the photo, her hair falling forward, brushing my arm. Her voice, low enough to feel more than hear. "There." Could have stepped back. Should have. But I didn't. And she didn't either. We stayed like that, suspended, pretending to study the same picture. The quiet hum of the lights above us filled the air. Too loud, too fragile. Then she whispered, almost to herself, "You really shouldn't look at me that way." "I'm not sure how else to." Her lips parted, not in surprise, but in surrender to something we both already knew was dangerous. A pause, a flicker. Then she smiled, the faintest trace of it, and walked past me, her shoulder brushing mine on purpose this time. It wasn't a confession, but it was something close, something that stayed long after she was gone. It started raining the next evening, hard enough that the gallery windows blurred into gray. The storm emptied the place early. No customers, no chatter, just the sound of water and the faint hum of the dehumidifier. Elena stood by the front door, watching the rain like she was waiting for it to stop before she said something important. I was at the counter, pretending to organize paperwork that didn't need organizing. "Looks like you're stuck here," I said. Her laugh was quiet, tired. "I suppose I am." She turned toward me, arms folded, her blouse loose at the collar. The air between us felt heavier than it had any right to be. "I can call a cab," I offered. "It's fine. I don't mind waiting." Neither of us said what we were actually thinking. That being stuck there, alone, wasn't a problem. The lights flickered once, and she smiled at the ceiling like she didn't quite trust the building. Then, softly, "You shouldn't stay late because of me." "Maybe I want to." Her eyes met mine at that. Not sharp, not teasing, just searching. "You're too young to sound that certain." I shrugged. "You don't seem too old to sound unsure." That earned me a small breath of laughter. She looked down, biting her lip the way she did when she didn't want to admit something. We stood there, close enough to feel each other's presence, far enough to still pretend we weren't. Then her phone buzzed. The sound was too loud in the quiet room. She glanced at the screen. A name lit up, Sophia, her daughter. Her face changed, softened, then tensed. She let the call ring out, pressing the phone face down on the counter. "You should answer," I said. "Not right now." Her tone carried a weight I didn't push against. When she looked up again, there was something raw in her eyes. Not desire exactly, but something tangled up with it. A mix of want and guilt and fear of being seen wanting. I stepped closer, slow enough that she could stop me if she wanted. She didn't. Her hand brushed mine. Again that accidental, not accidental kind of touch. "You shouldn't," she whispered, same as before. "I know." Her breath hitched, barely there. I could see the pulse in her throat, the faint tremor in her fingers. We were close enough that her perfume blurred into the scent of rain on my clothes. The kind of closeness that made every breath shared, every silence feel like a choice. I thought she might close the distance. For a second, she almost did, her gaze dropping to my lips before she caught herself. And then a sound. The creak of the back door opening. We jumped apart. One of the assistants, Maya, peeked in, holding an umbrella, her expression curious. "Still here?" she asked. Elena's voice came out perfectly steady. "Just locking up." Maya nodded and disappeared again, her footsteps fading down the hall. The silence that followed was unbearable. A mix of relief and something else neither of us could name. Elena exhaled slowly, pressing a hand to her chest. "That was close." "Too close," I said, but neither of us moved away this time. Her hand, still trembling slightly, rested on the edge of the counter, inches from mine. I didn't reach for it. Not yet. Still, the space between us felt smaller than ever. And we both knew one more silence like that and something would give. The next night, she asked me to stay late again. No reason this time, no delivery, no deadline. Just stay. The rain had cleared, but the air still smelled like it. Damp concrete, faint perfume, leftover electricity. Elena sat on the edge of the counter, legs crossed, sleeves rolled up. She looked younger somehow, but also tired, like she'd been arguing with herself all day and lost. "I shouldn't keep you here," she said. "You're not keeping me." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You always say that, like you don't know what it means. Then tell me." She hesitated, gaze flicking to the door as if expecting someone to appear. Then she looked back at me. "If anyone saw us, if anyone thought there was something—" "There is something," I said before I could stop myself. Her breath caught, just a fraction of a second, enough to make my chest tighten. "Elena, don't." Her voice cracked, soft but sharp. "You can't just say things like that. Then stop acting like you don't feel it too." That did it. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was alive, pulsing, heavy with everything we'd buried under careful restraint. She slid off the counter, standing just inches away now. "You're too young to understand what this would cost me. Then let me decide what it costs me." Her eyes flickered, anger maybe, or fear pretending to be anger. "You think this is simple? You think I haven't—" She stopped, pressing a hand to her forehead. "God, you have no idea. I don't care. You should. I tried." She looked at me then, really looked, and something in her gave way. Not enough to collapse, but enough to stop fighting. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, unsteady. "Do you even know what you're doing to me?" I shook my head. "No, but I know what you're doing to me." Her lips parted, and the smallest, strangest laugh escaped her. Half disbelief, half surrender. I took a step closer. She didn't move. "Don't," she whispered again, but it sounded like a plea, not a warning. I reached up, fingers brushing a strand of hair from her face. She didn't breathe. Her skin warmed under my touch, her eyes closing for a heartbeat too long. "Elena!" She leaned forward barely. The scent of her perfume filled the space between us. Her hand coming up to my chest like she meant to push me away but never did. We were one breath apart when she whispered, "This can't happen." "I know." "Then why are you still here?" "Because you asked me to stay." Her eyes fluttered open, and that was the moment, the edge, the breaking point. Her hand slid from my chest to my collar, holding me there. Not pulling, not pushing, just holding. Her lips parted. A tremor, a breath, a second of impossible stillness. Then, a sudden knock on the glass door. Both of us froze. Through the reflection, the silhouette of someone outside. Waiting, watching. Elena's hand dropped. My heart didn't. The person outside the glass door wasn't a stranger. It was Sophia, Elena's daughter. She stood under the awning, her phone light catching her face, confused and wet from the rain. She must have seen more than she should have. The distance between us, the way Elena's hand had been on my shirt. By the time Elena unlocked the door, her composure had already returned, but not completely. Her voice trembled when she spoke. "Sophia, you scared me." Sophia looked at me, then back at her mother. "You said you were working late." "I was. With him." I could feel the heat rising in my face, my pulse hammering in my throat. Elena's hand tightened around the doorframe, white-knuckled. He was helping. That's all. The lie was smooth, almost practiced. But Sophia's eyes didn't buy it. Right? She said. Then she looked at me again. Not angry, just disappointed, maybe. Mom, it's late. I'll lock up. Go wait in the car. Sophia hesitated, then turned and walked off without another word. The moment the door clicked shut, Elena's breath broke. She pressed a trembling hand to her lips and turned away. Elena, don't. Her voice cracked again. Don't say anything. She walked to the back room, trying to collect herself, but her steps weren't steady. I followed, stopping just short of touching her. She didn't see. She saw enough, she said, cutting me off. She's not stupid. Her back was to me, her shoulders drawn tight. You don't understand what this does to me, to her, to everything. I wanted to reach for her, but I didn't. Then tell me what to do. She turned sharply. You can't fix this. The words hit like a door slamming, but her eyes betrayed her. They were wet, wide, scared. Not of me, but of herself. I told myself it was harmless, she whispered. That you just looked at me kindly. That it was nothing. I took a step closer. And now, she exhaled, a shaky breath. Now I can't lie to myself anymore. She backed up until she hit the wall, the space between us shrinking again. Do you know what it's like? She said, voice trembling. To want something that makes you ashamed of yourself? Yes, I said quietly. You. For a moment, neither of us breathed. Her hand rose, halfway uncertain, before she caught herself and dropped it. Don't say that, she whispered, though her body didn't move. Her heartbeat was visible in her throat, her lips parting like she wanted to argue but couldn't find the words. I reached out, brushing my fingers against hers. She didn't pull away this time. Her hand trembled, but she let it stay there. Elena, I said, my voice low, close enough for her to feel it. What happens now? She looked up, her eyes fierce and breaking all at once. Now, she said almost to herself, I decide whether to ruin everything or to stop pretending it isn't already ruined. Her hand lingered in mine for one last second. Then she pulled away, turned off the lights and whispered, Go home. But her voice sounded like a promise she didn't believe. I didn't go home that night. I walked halfway there, stopped under a streetlight, turned back. The city was quiet. Rainwater glinting on asphalt, the gallery a dark shape in the distance. I don't know what I expected to find when I went back. Forgiveness, maybe, or an ending. Elena was still there. The lights were low, her coat draped over a chair, a glass of wine untouched on the counter. She didn't look surprised to see me, only tired, the kind of tired that comes from running from yourself too long. You shouldn't be here, she said softly. I know, but she didn't tell me to leave. We stood in the same room that had started everything. The air felt different, thicker, quieter, like every sound had learned to hold its breath. She looked at me for a long moment before saying, You think this is something we can just want? I don't think anything, I said. I just know I can't stop. Her eyes closed at that, a small, broken surrender. You're making this harder. It already is. When she opened her eyes again, the fight was still there, but softer now. You don't understand what you're asking for. Then show me. She exhaled, shaky, uneven, and took a step forward, the kind of step that undid weeks of pretending. We were close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating off her skin. Her perfume lingered, faint jasmine, faint rain, and beneath it, something unmistakably her. Her hand lifted, hovering at my chest, fingers trembling before they settled there. You're too young, she whispered, and you're too beautiful for that to matter. A small, helpless sound left her throat. Not quite a laugh, not quite a sigh. Don't say things you can't take back. Then let me mean them. Her head tilted slightly, eyes searching mine. The silence stretched, trembling on the edge of something neither of us could undo. I reached up and brushed her cheek. The barest touch, but it felt like crossing a line. Her breath caught, and her lips parted, inches from mine. "This is where it breaks," she whispered. "Or begins." We stayed like that, not moving, not breathing, suspended between right and wrong. Her forehead rested against mine, a soft, desperate contact. "I've spent years keeping everything under control," she murmured. "You make me forget how. Maybe that's the point." She let out a trembling breath, her voice barely there. "If I let this happen, there's no going back." "Then don't go back." The words hung there, too raw, too real, and for a second, she almost believed them. Her hand slipped up to my neck, her thumb brushing my jaw like a memory she didn't want to lose. Then she pulled back, just enough for the air to rush in between us again. Her eyes glistened. "Now you understand," she said quietly. "Some things can only exist right before they happen." And just like that, she stepped away, leaving the moment whole, untouched, and burning. Days passed without a word. The gallery felt hollow without her, walls echoing, air still carrying traces of her perfume. I kept expecting her to walk in, to fill the silence with something casual that meant more than it should. She didn't. But one evening, as I was closing up, I heard her voice again. "Still here." I turned. She stood by the door, hair loose, no makeup, no guard. "Just Elena." "I thought you weren't coming back," I said. "I wasn't." Her voice was steady, but her eyes weren't. Then I realized I didn't want our last word to be silence. She walked in, slowly, looking around like she was remembering something fragile. The tension that used to hang between us was still there, quieter now, but alive. "I kept thinking about that night," she said. "How close I came to." "You don't have to explain." "I do," she said, cutting in softly. "Because I didn't stop out of fear. I stopped because I needed to know it wasn't just the moment talking." I moved closer. "And now," she smiled faintly, the kind that doesn't hide behind anything. "Now I know it wasn't." The air between us thickened again, but this time it didn't feel dangerous. It felt like exhaling after holding your breath too long. She reached up, brushing a strand of hair from my face, the same gesture I'd done to her once. Her fingers lingered at my jaw, gentle but sure. "I thought loving someone younger would make me foolish," she said quietly. "But what scared me most was realizing how seen I felt with you." I swallowed hard. I've never met anyone who made me want to be older, just to deserve them. Her laugh came soft, broken. "Don't. You already do." I stepped closer, and this time, she didn't move away. My hand found hers, tentative at first, then steady. The touch felt like closure and beginning all at once. She looked up, eyes glistening, and whispered, "You make me remember what it's like to want without regret." And I knew then, whatever this was, whatever name it didn't need, it was real. She leaned in, resting her forehead against mine. No kiss, no pretense. Just closeness. Warm, steady, alive. The kind of nearness that didn't need to prove itself anymore. We stayed like that, breathing the same quiet, until she said, "Maybe it's not about right or wrong anymore. Maybe it's just about timing." "Then we'll take it slow," I said. She smiled, small, certain. "For once, I'd like that." Outside, the city hummed softly. The rain had stopped. Inside, the world felt still, not perfect, not finished, but enough. When she finally pulled back, she didn't let go of my hand. And in that stillness, I understood. We weren't breaking rules anymore. We were just two people choosing not to hide. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?